Well, welcome to all of you. We're so glad that you're here tonight. Several faces are familiar from other workshops, so we appreciate you discerning being with us throughout this series more than once, and we also welcome folks who are with us for the first time tonight, and people watching this recording from later on. I want to start by just welcoming you, whatever your comfort zone is with Zoom, with online facilitation. Maybe you've been doing this for a really long time and this is old hat and it feels good to just kind of shine things up a little bit. And maybe this is very much in your learning zone or discomfort zone. But we just appreciate you being here, and we promise that we're going to grow and build on whatever you bring with you. So we're going to start with our opening prayer that we've used in some of our other sessions, and then we'll dive right in, and we're going to be done on time. How about that? So join me in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, creator of all things, you call us to be in relationship with you and others. Thank you for calling us to be evangelizers, for the opportunity to share with others what you have given to each one of us. May all those with whom we share the gift of faith discover how you are present in all things. May they come to know you, the one true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. May the grace of the Holy Spirit guide our heart and lips, so that we may remain constant in loving and praising you. May we be witnesses to the gospel and ministers of your truth. May all our words and actions reflect your love. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, welcome. I'm going to share my screen now. You'll see that can you all see my PowerPoint? Kate, can I get a thumbs up nod? Wonderful. So I'm going to click through just these couple.
Real quick, sorry, Jessie, I'm seeing that big gray box again.
All right, then we will change this. There we go. Thank you. So we're going to get started. I'm going to move quickly through these slides because some of these are familiar things that you've seen before in other workshops. But just a couple of things to be explicit about our goals for tonight, and then I will also share those poll results with you after this. So our first goal for what we're doing this evening is truly evangelization. So the purpose of what we're doing is learning the language that people speak so that we can meet them where they are and talk about Christ where they are, which is, for a lot of folks, online. We also want to empower you with norms around online hospitality. If we say, you can just use Zoom for this meeting, it will very likely feel like a business meeting or a transaction. There are, the same way that there are norms for meeting in person and how we extend hospitality, there are emergent norms for how we do that online. So we're going to teach you about those tonight. We're going to expand your comfort zone wherever you come in, and we're also going to share really practical ways that you can begin applying these things now, if you'd like. This is our agenda for this evening. We're going to talk about, again, what does hospitality look like in person? I know that some of our hearts are breaking about not doing that. And the reality is, in person is different than online. We understand that. And also, how can we work within the confines we have right now so that we don't lose people? We don't lose the opportunity to be evangelists and to meet people where they are. So we'll talk about how to do hospitality specifically over Zoom. We're going to have some breakout sessions tonight where you get to talk with each other through a simulation about how you will apply this in your parishes. And then we'll close, like I said, on time. Just a couple other housekeeping things. So I like to say this is the equivalent of if we were in person, I would say, where are the bathrooms? So Kate is happy to be your Q&A gal tonight. If you have topical questions you want us to get to by the end of the session, you have technology questions, Kate will have your back. She's very good at that, so feel free to reach her through the chat feature. And just a couple of etiquette things to keep us on the same page. We already talked about mute unless you're speaking. Remember, we appreciate your video being on when you're able to do that. And also when your video's on, we can see you even when I make this awkward face. That's why I included that photo of myself. So it's a joy to be present in your life, in the intimacy of your life, and also be aware that we can see you. And for me, that sometimes means that my 4-year-old might run in and tell mom goodnight before he goes to bed. So that's a thing that could happen. We encourage you to use your reactions feature in Zoom, which is at the bottom menu bar. You can see where the red circle is. Those nonverbal cues are very helpful for us as presenters to know when you're vibing with something that we're talking about. So please, please feel free to use the thumbs up and the applause emoji. Hey, thanks, Victoria, so that we can know that you're engaged in what you're connecting with. And lastly, please multitask mindfully. Zoom is designed as a multitasker's playground. It's my happy space because you can be chatting and doing all these things at once, but that can also look disrespectful if there's not a shared understanding about that. So we're going to mutually agree that if somebody is multitasking, that they aren't doing other things outside of this meeting, but instead they're multitasking mindfully. And Kate, with that, I'm going to share these poll results, and then we're going to brainstorm some hospitality norms. Does that sound good? Good, good. All right, so here are the results of the poll. We got 100% catechesis programs, Bible studies, book discussions, video discussions. That's great. And I would love to hear later on if those are things that your parishes are already doing, or if that's something that you're looking to start after this. So we'll be able to talk about all of that. And an option for building new online small Christian communities. That's beautiful too. This is such a wonderful balance of how do we help our people have continuity who have been engaged, who might not feel like they can engage in the same way because of the pandemic norms. But also there are still so many people that as a church we're not reaching. So we're always mindful about how do we reach the people that we have and how do we reach the people that we don't have. So it's good to be aware of doing both. And then another high score for RCIA. Wonderful, wonderful. So we're not going to get nitty gritty in the weeds about those things, but some of your simulations will speak to some of those issues. You'll get to think those things through. All right. So with that, we're going to do another handy screen share. We're also role modeling all of the facilitation tricks tonight that might be of interest to you all. So I'm going to do a screen share and Kate's going to facilitate some conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie. So the first thing, this is a time for your voice to be heard. So if you have an answer, please feel free to unmute yourself and call out your answer. I'm not going to call on you. We're all adults and I'm out of middle school, so I'll let you just call out your answer. The second thing, just to orient you a little bit, if you hover your mouse over and you're on a desktop, over like the line between Jessie's screen share and any pictures of people you may see, a light gray line will show up and you can drag that line over toward her screen share so that you can see more people, or you can drag it the other direction so you see a bigger picture of what Jessie's sharing with us. So that's just an option for you as you go through. So again, if your mouse is moving on your desktop screen, you'll either see a big light gray bar, or there are two little bars sometimes if your mouse isn't exactly over the middle. There are two little bars kind of in the center of the screen share. So if you have trouble finding that, Mary, could you be on call tech while I'm talking? Because I can multitask, but not amazingly. So, all right. So I would just invite you right now. We talked a little bit about hospitality in the beginning. But just think about the last time you've hosted a group. What are some of the things that you did to help make that group feel at home, to extend hospitality to that group? It can be something as simple as telling them what time to come and where to go, or something a little more complex like providing snacks. But what have you done to help make people feel at home? And I'm just gonna quiet down and let you unmute and share.
We always have coffee and snacks for our Bible study groups.
Thanks, Mary.
I try to greet everybody as they come in.
That's awesome, Linda. Thank you.
Begin with a non-threatening question, simple sharing question to get people comfortable.
It's an excellent insight, Sister Nancy. Thank you.
We shared a meal.
That's a great idea.
This most recent last time on Monday, we just had bottles of water at each place on the table.
Yeah, and that really speaks to your care for people feeling safe. So that's really, along with norms that we have and whatever, but.
Yes, we were all social distanced.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think about if I'm going to have something in my home or in a church rectory, I would normally take people's coats or tell them, you can leave your shoes on, you don't have to take your shoes off, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. I always appreciate when people have tissues, which sounds crazy, but like you never know when you're going to need a tissue.
We had our choir director start us off in song.
That's really nice. Another thing I've had people do for me is set like a beginning and an end time, like a real, like, here's what we're going to be doing when you come kind of thing. So I'm not just like, okay, I'm showing up and I don't know what's going to happen.
Introduce people to each other that don't know
We all
each other. So just general introductions when you're first gathering.
Mm-hmm.
Also, to make sure people know where the facilities are.
We also
so-
have some ground rules, like, and explain the confidentiality of the group, and, you know, just so they know they can share freely.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't know one another, name tags can be helpful too, even just with the first name on.
I love that Zoom has like instant name tags. That's an awesome idea. Thanks, Mr. Nancy.
If I would set the table or fluff the couch cushions, I would do something about the physical space. That's a good list, Kate.
Yeah, that's an amazing list. Jessie, I think you should tell them that they have the basics of everything they need to know.
You don't need this workshop, basically. Here comes Maria. I know she had another meeting. We're going to welcome her when she comes. Yeah, you don't need this workshop. The point of this exercise was to show you how much you already know, and that these types of things that we're going to talk about this evening, little bit of magic. Oh, there we go. So these 4 principles are things that you already know how to do as loving, hospitable ministers in person. And there are norms around all 4 of these things as well when we're online. So these are the areas we're going to talk about today, and it spells fine because you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine through the pandemic. You're going to be fine in your ministry. You're going to be fine as you branch out of your comfort zone. You're going to be fine because your heart already knows how to do this. Your brain just needs to learn the technical skills for how to apply these things that are true in person to an online digital space. So I'm going to move now to a PowerPoint, and Kate and I are going to present a couple things. We have some videos, we have some interactive pieces, and then we'll be moving into our
And as you do that, Jessie, I just want to point out, like, we all know the boundaries and kind of norms of everyday life, and you kind of know what to expect, and they've been decades, centuries in the making, right? I go into somebody's house, I know to offer to take off my shoes. They come into my house, I know to take their coat. Those kinds of things we've just kind of, I don't know, seeped into us. Our parents taught us about them. They were part of the culture when we were growing up. But now we have this new kind of room that is technology like Zoom. And so those norms are just starting to be developed. And so that's why it can sometimes feel a little bit weird, but the underlying principles are really the same. So I think, Jessie, thanks so much for pointing out that really we are going to be fine. There's so much that you already know intuitively, and our role here is just to kind of help make that transition into a new space and help you start thinking about things, not to give you necessarily answers, because you're the ones who are going to know your people and be able to tailor that for your folks.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
One of our aims in these workshops is to help people believe that the human touch of ministry is still possible, even with social distancing. And so learning these norms and a commitment to these norms is how you will do that. And for people who are participating in these experiences, they will feel that you've created that measure of hospitality for them. We're confident in that. So this is just the basic overview. And by the way, there will be a detailed handout with word for word suggestions about everything we talk about tonight and more. So there it is, Kate. You know I'm not lying to you. So we'll be sure to email that to everybody and post it on our website. So if you want to take notes as part of your learning, go for it, but also you don't need to. So we'll take good care of you. All right, Kate, you want to talk about facilitation a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to. So there are a couple of things that really help you facilitate well. The first one is an agenda. And as much as that sounds really basic, letting people know what to expect kind of de-escalates anxiety about what's coming forward. So even tonight, it wasn't word by word, it wasn't having like timelines or anything associated to it. But when you looked at what how Jessie introduced, she said, here are the things that we're going to do tonight. So you kind of have a schema in your head, like we're about this far through, I know what to expect, I know what I'm looking for. The second one is a behind the scenes facilitation guide for your folks. If you're in a more formal setting or when you have a team presenting, it's really great to have this behind the scenes, really detailed facilitation so that everyone knows what they're looking for. And Jessie, did you click for the picture to show up? I think we have one.
Here you go.
Ah, there it is. There are different, Jessie's the master of this, I have to tell you, and it makes presenting with her so much easier. But it really is super duper detailed. Like the one for tonight is, I think, 5 pages long. So and it has little like red notes about who's clicking what button when. But what it does is it de-escalates my anxiety as a presenter, but also it makes things so much smoother. So that when your folks come in, they can really experience a smooth presentation. Does it mean everything's perfect? Absolutely not. But it does mean that there's a better chance that we know what we're talking about and who's doing what when. And it just really facilitates someone feeling cared for because you've prepared the place for them. Another little piece is to make sure that you facilitate intros for your people when they come in. For so many of us, it's hard to pick up on body language, and there's not really space for that sidebar chit chat stuff that happens in person. And so you're not going to have time for everyone to give their life story as you begin your small group. But if everyone could give 2 or 3 sentences about themselves, it kind of helps do, and I think Sister Nancy said this, introduce them to each other, that or Victoria. One of you said introduce people to each other, and that's kind of one way on Zoom that you can do that effectively. Another thing is sometimes, I don't know if you've noticed this, but in person, it's easy to tell when someone's just about finished or when someone else is going to start talking. It's easy to bounce back and forth. But sometimes on Zoom, it's not that easy to kind of pick up on those cues, especially when you all are about like 1.5 inches on my computer screen because Jessie's also sharing her screen. So sometimes what people have done, and Blessed is She is a fairly big women's ministry, and what they suggest doing is literally popcorning or indicating like, oh, I'm going to ask so-and-so to share next. I'm going to open the floor for so-and-so to share next. You may want to establish norms about, like maybe Jessie says, I'm going to ask Kate to share next. And I'm going to be like, actually, Jessie, I'm going to throw it back to you. Or, you know, whatever it is, if someone's not comfortable sharing, to establish that norm of what to do. But also that can help make sure that everyone has a chance to talk. And part of the reason it's hard to pick up on those things is that our body language is a little bit muted because we're not physically in each other's presence. And there's so much that we can do with our body, and actually we're designed to pick up on that body language as human persons. So what I'm going to do is just shift it over to Jessie. She has a short video clip. It's about 4 minutes long, and it talks about how to use body language well in a pretty codified way. So if you're a linear sequential kind of person, this could be happy space for you.
Can you see that, Kate?
I can. Can you slide your big gray box?
Is that a little better?
Yep. And then can you slide it all the way to the side? Yep.
Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear this.
Hello, my name is Vanessa, and I am a recovering awkward person. This is me at the peak of what I like to call my plaid vest phase. Luckily, my years of social awkwardness led me to a fascinating career trying to figure out how people work. So what I didn't realize is that many years ago, I would do an experiment that led me right on this stage in front of you here today. My lab researchers and I were curious about TED Talks. We wanted to know, why do some TED Talks go viral and others don't? So we embarked on a huge experiment. We analyzed thousands of hours of TED Talks looking for patterns. Now, I wasn't sure if we would find anything, so we were analyzing body language, hand gestures, vocal variety. We even looked at outfit choices, which made today particularly pressure-filled. And very quickly, there was a pattern in the data that made me curious. And after we coded more and more TED Talks, we realized there was a pattern. Now, before I tell you what that is, I have a personal question for you, which is, when you see someone, what part of the body do you look at first? You can just call it out. Where do you look first when you see someone? Face, eyes. So most people, shoes. They're very high. So most people say eyes, face, or mouth. But actually, when we first see someone, the first place we look is the hands. And this is left over from our caveman days. Because if we were approached by a stranger caveman, the first place we looked was the hands to see if they were carrying a rock or a spear. In other words, we wanted to know if we were safe, if they were friend or foe. Now, this actually still remains from caveman days. And when we can't see someone's hands, something interesting happens. So I just did something a little mean to your brain. You should start to feel just a little bit uncomfortable. And the reason for that is because when you can't see my hands, you wonder, what is she doing back there? And then the longer I leave my hands behind my back, you get more and more distracted because you can't see them. And eventually your brain is just screaming, can she just bring her hands out from behind her back? And the moment I bring them back out, it feels so much better. And this is because our brain knows that if we can't see hands, we can't see intention. And what we found is when we compared the most viewed TED Talks side by side with the least viewed TED Talks, we found a pattern with hand gestures. Specifically, on average, the most popular TED Talkers use an average of 465 hand gestures in 18 minutes. Yes, we painstakingly counted every single one. I have 465 prepared for you today. And the least popular TED Talkers use an average of 272 hand gestures, almost half. What's happening here? So when TED speakers take the stage, they're showing you first, friend, 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 friend. You'll notice when I walked out on the stage, I waved. I was saying friend, 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 friend. And the other thing that TED speakers do, see if this looks familiar. So they come into the red dot and they do something like this. Today, I want to talk to you about a big idea. I'm going to break it down into 3 different areas that are going to change your life. Right? So the most viral TED Talkers seem to sit in the same way with these hand gestures, because what they're doing is they're showing you, I know my content so well that I can speak to you on 2 different tracks. I can speak to you with my words, but I can also explain my concepts with my hands. And this way, they underline their concepts with their words. For example, if I were to say, today, I have a really big idea. It's huge. You laugh and you're like, Vanessa, it's so small. It's not very big. And that is because your brain gives 12.5 times more weight to hand gestures. So today, I have a really, really big idea.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessie. So a couple of the things that you may have pulled from that is, we always laugh on the team, but we're like, friend. If you can set up your camera or your video so that people can see your hands occasionally. I'm not asking you to like keep your hands around your face all the time, because that's just distracting. But if you can set it up so that people can see your hands occasionally, it really does subconsciously create a safer feeling space. And also, if you have something that you would really like to hammer home, maybe you're doing a Bible study or something and there's a particular theme that you'd like to share, make sure that you have a couple of hand gestures that kind of supplement that, so that people can read you on 2 tracks, not just the audio, but also the physical track of being able to see what your gestures and your hand motions are. So Jessie, I think that's it for F.
Thank you so much.
Facilitation.
That's great. And I appreciate you saying that too, Kate. Some of those things make a little bit more sense for that formal adult catechesis. So if your pastor is presenting a Bible study, or if you're presenting a book discussion, or that presentation aspect is different from teaching everyone in your small Christian community that when they talk about how the Word of God sits on their heart, that they need to use hand gestures. I'm not saying that you need to do that, but I'm saying if you as a facilitator model those things for them, then they will feel that level of hospitality and comfort and at ease, and they'll feel it in a deep psychological way that they won't even articulate to you, but you know that you'll be reaching them. Does that make sense? Can I get a thumbs up if that feels like a connection for somebody? Oh, great, thanks. Look at all those real and non-emoji thumbs. Thank you for your emoji thumbs, Steve. So at this point, we might have a little bit of a gray box for a second here, but I appreciate your patience as we continue to navigate all the technology as well. So the next thing we're going to talk about is intimacy. So this is really making a personal connection with folks, and some of those things in person might look like, you know, you're having people in your home, or you're sitting around a communal table. And when you're in my home or in my church rectory, you can see family photos on the walls, or my dog is going to greet you when you walk in. I don't have a dog. My son wants a cat. So those levels of intimacy where your faith and your life overlap just kind of happen when you're facilitating something in person. Hugging happens, handshakes happen. So how can you do intimacy online in a way that feels really appropriate and helpful? So a couple different things, and I'm going to talk through these first, and then we have another just 90-second Zoom video we're going to show you. But there are different toggle settings that you have on your Zoom account that you can have a gallery view like we have now. That's our default, because our goal tonight in part is to help you feel connected to each other. This is less about the singularity of me or Kate as a presenter and more about helping you feel connected as community in this together. So again, that's an intentional choice that you as the facilitator have the opportunity to make, is how do you want to set up your view? And we're going to show you a video that it shows you side by side what the options are. So you have the opportunity to choose that. And that's where those little color-coded notes in the facilitation guides come in handy if you want to switch back and forth between different views for different reasons. Also, for someone who's a facilitator or a teacher, set up a designated space to present from. We have sort of a small home because all of my children are awake right now and they're downstairs. So I have to be in a space where it's a little bit harder to have a pretty background on the wall. But this is where you have an opportunity. I do have a corner of some family photos back there that are hard to see, but show a little bit of your personality like we talked about in those 101 sessions. Show a little bit of your life. And be aware of the messaging that happens implicitly by how you're sitting. If you're sitting at a desk, that is a really great place to be teaching from. That's a little bit less of a great place to be facilitating personal faith sharing from. If I'm sitting on a couch, that's a great place to be receiving a lesson that somebody is teaching me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all of those little things, you have the opportunity to intentionally role model as a host. And I don't think that you need to get crazy about having a checklist for all these things every single time you have your small faith group meet. But I do think that if you have the habit of intentionality the first couple times, these things will become habit the way that it becomes habit to take someone's coat. Also consider what types of background activity feel good and normalize those. If Father Smith is presenting his beautiful PhD thesis on the Gospel of John, you might not want everybody having their kids and their pets sitting on their lap and multitasking and doing their paint by numbers with their families. But that might feel really good for somebody who's doing family catechesis or a faith sharing session or those kinds of things. So again, if you don't decide on those things in advance and talk about them on purpose, it can lead to miscommunication. It could lead to a perceived sense of being disrespectful or misunderstanding the point of something. So all you have to do as a facilitator is to just normalize, like I did. My 4-year-old might want to come in, and I hope that that made you know that if your 4-year-old or your cat or your dog or your spouse pops into your background, that this is a space where we welcome that. So now I'm going to share this 90-second video so we can talk a little bit about the 2 kinds of views. This is one of the practical tools for you.
This video will cover what a spotlight video is and how to create one. When you're in a Zoom session, you have a couple of options for views. This active speaker view, which creates a large image of the person who is talking with all other participants as smaller images across the top, or the gallery view, which creates an equal-sized image for each participant and puts a yellow box highlight around the current speaker. If you're in a Zoom session with your students and you want one video to be selected as the main view for all participants, the spotlight function will accomplish that for you. To set a video as the spotlight video, first switch to gallery view. Then, from the menu on the video you want to spotlight, select the spotlight option. Now, all participants see that video as the large tile with the participant videos across the top. This can be particularly helpful if you're trying to illustrate a concept in the physical world outside of your computer screen, something that can't be done through a share screen function.
Great. So I want to give us a second for you all to be able to chime in here. For those of you who are using Zoom, specifically for a ministry at your parish, talk to me about what ministry you're using it for, and if you would think spotlight view or gallery view would be better for that ministry. You can just unmute and speak when you're ready.
Well, we're going to try it. What we're going to do is we had been doing the Ascension Press Bible Timeline video series, and we broke out into small groups to discuss it. And we were down to the last 3 lessons when COVID hit. And the group consensus was they didn't want to just finish it on their own. They wanted to wait until the fall because this was going to be all over, and then we could get together and finish, and that's not going to happen. So we're going to finish those last 3 lessons together as a group via Zoom. And then we want to begin Bishop Barron's Word on Fire, David the King series, and turn these people into breakout sessions with the small groups that they're used to being with. That's the reason why they wanted to continue, because even though, so they're used to meeting for 6 weeks, in the spring and in the fall, they've gotten used to each other and a comfort level with each other. So trying to figure out how to make them comfortable, and nobody's done this before. So that's why we've been here all week.
Good for you. Thanks for your courage in charting that course. Sue, do you think for the Bible timeline videos, a gallery view or a spotlight view would be a better fit for what you're trying to accomplish there?
Well, what I was assuming was that it was really a shared screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I guess in my mind, if it's a shared screen, then you don't need to be the spotlight. I mean, before, if we're doing it the other way around, it needs to be the spotlight because people are going to watch it first together and then we're going to discuss. But it would be a share screen, correct? Since it's the DVD?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a video they all watched on their own first and then they came to class, or if they watched it together in the class. So if they watched it together, yes.
Yes. That's the way this group wanted to do it. They can do online separate, but they'd like to watch it together and be together.
I love it. That's beautiful. Good luck.
Thanks. Prayers too.
Yes, and those.
September 24th.
Counting
We're
right
getting
down.
ready to start an Ascension Press Bible study at St. John Holy Rosary parishes. And we're going to use the shared screen, of course, for the video, but then we're going to use the spotlight for the discussion part of the Bible study.
Or the active speaker view, Mary. So whoever's speaking will be featured.
Correct. I'm sorry. That's I meant the active speaker. So thanks, Jessie.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great example of how to maximize it. And that simple switch of intentionality is going to make all the difference in helping that session feel really good for your folks. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to move on because we want to have time for our breakout sessions. And I'm going to kick it back to Kate. So that was the letter F, or I'm sorry, that was the letter I for intimacy. And Kate's going to talk about the letter N for anticipating needs.
I feel like I'm singing that L is for the something, I forget the rest of the song, but so now we're on to N for anticipating needs. And we have all kinds of needs, right? But one need when we're starting to do technology like this is, what do your folks know as far as technology? And one way that you can really be helpful to your people is to make sure that they're comfortable on the technology. So as you prepare for your folks and look at their needs, just get an inventory of what are they comfortable with, and then make sure you're offering things to help them grow and get comfortable with technology. The second one, sometimes it's not just the participants that have needs, sometimes it's your facilitators. So when you look at your facilitation team, making a clear plan so that your facilitation team is able to work seamlessly with each other and nobody's getting overtaxed or overburdened is really critical. So think about all the things that have to happen for your Zoom meeting and then divvy them up together. And just really practice that habit of saying, like, I've got a lot, I'm not sure I can multitask that way. Or I think I can take a little bit more. So for example, today, we have the chat bar going on. We have tech support. Both of those are me. And do you remember at the beginning, I was like, Mary, I'm talking. I can't do tech support and talk at the same time. I'm out. So that kind of clear communication can also help your participants make sure that they're well served and nobody's going crazy at any point. And the last one is really, and Jessie already kind of touched on this, but establish your norms, especially your communication norms. So for folks who grew up in a digital area, so they're just really digital natives, folks probably 40-ish and under, who really don't remember a time when there wasn't a home computer or wasn't easy access to inexpensive technology. For those folks, they grew up knowing how to multitask. It was expected that they were multitasking, that they could do one thing and another thing, and both things could be related to the main theme. So for example, right now, if I were not talking to you and I was listening, I may be looking up something also that the presenter referenced so that I can delve into it deeper later, but I didn't want to miss that piece of information. Those kinds of things are expected for digital natives, but that's not the expectation for everybody. People who weren't digital natives were really hammered in that, like, you do one thing and it is rude to be doing something else if you're supposed to be listening to someone. You can see I love the thumbs up. That's also how I grew up, that it was, you know, phones down, I'm talking to you, you look at me. And so those different norms, if it's not clearly communicated at the beginning of your meeting, can really lead to some confusion and hurt feelings. So what's normal, expected, even applauded in one group may be seen as hurtful for another group. So just being aware of what people may be expecting when they come in and setting those norms. Jessie does this really well at the beginning of this session, just as a heads up about multitasking. She said, make sure you're multitasking mindfully. So there's an expectation that somebody may be looking at the chat bar. And I've seen a couple questions come in and they're great questions. So I'm gonna add them to our question list. But those were mindful multitasking. And when you saw somebody's eyeballs go to the little chat bar, you weren't like, what are they doing? Are they chatting their mom? Like, no, you knew that that expectation was there. And also, I think it's important, and I've been learning this a lot myself, generational norms don't have, I don't want to say they don't have value. It's not like this group is right and that group is wrong, right? So when we do things online with small communities, or when we're working with adults who are from different generations, finding a way to set those norms in a tone of welcome is really critical. So we know that there's value in all of these norms. Here's what we're going to do in this meeting. Thank you, or in this small group. Thank you so much for abiding by those and being considerate of others. Jessie, did I forget anything? Do I need to add anything?
No, that's so good. The only other scenario I'm thinking of is some of you oversee a parish where there are multiple small communities meeting, and maybe you're the resource person for small faith sharing groups and Bible studies and other adult programs. So these are good concepts for you to let the leaders of those groups know about, because they, you know, if a group has been meeting together for 5 or 10 years, then they really might be on the same page, or they really might not. So it might be good to put those as a heads up on those facilitators' radars, because again, one awkward meeting and people might say, that's it, I hate this technology, I knew that this was a bad idea. But actually you can prevent that if you're intentional on the front end about those intergenerational or different communication forms. That's great.
So right now, you're on a fish, you're a fin. And if you're going to be fine, we're going to pass it back to Jessie. Sorry, guys, it's late.
So smooth, Kate.
Oh, smooth. Yeah, thank you. I see some smiles. I appreciate it.
Somebody just annotated a heart, and I don't have the setting on to know who it was, but thanks, Deacon Steve. This little red heart here, that's from Deacon Steve.
Okay.
So the last thing I'm going to talk about is creating an experience. Some of you were in the young adult session this afternoon where Jillian went more in depth. She and I, our offices are working together on a really intensive workshop to talk about small group experiences for young adults and how we can update the small group model, which is a perennially good and inherently good model, but how we can translate it into contemporary language to meet young adult needs as evangelists. So just a little bit about experience, and this is sort of a philosophical and economic concept. It's a very interdisciplinary approach that we're taking to understanding the cultural context. But what we're saying is it's important to engage the 5 senses for somebody when you're hosting them and to personalize it. So it's the difference between, and the reality is that millennials and Gen Z especially, this is the norm. You know, when I was in high school or college, when I was hanging out with my friends and we went to get coffee, it's not like we went to Country Fair because we were thirsty for coffee and it was 99 cents. We went to Starbucks and we paid $5 because we could sit down and we would get customized playlists on our phones, and they would write our names on our cups in cute handwriting, and you know, the GPS from my phone would automatically sync and new coupons would load on my phone when I walked in, right? So, which is all crazy. And I'm not saying that those economic values need to drive what we do. What I am saying is that people 40 and under are used to the world engaging with them with that level of intentionality and giving them that level of personalization and customization in what they choose to spend their time in. And then the key is that if you create an experience for folks, the model is that they don't care about saving time, they care about time well spent. So then the value isn't, you have to keep this meeting to 60 minutes. It's, oh, if the meeting runs over, it's okay because I feel so well cared for. That's what creating an experience can do to add value to your program. So it's a whole nother presentation, but there are ways to create an experience online. And you came up with some of these in person, but engage all 5 senses when it's possible. And we did a conference with the Amazing Parish a while ago. It was a completely virtual conference. It was on Zoom, you know, it was a webinar style. But every team that participated, they mailed them a welcome box in advance, where every member of the team had a pair of goofy Catholic saint socks that they would all wear, and they would take pictures together in their Catholic saint socks and upload them to social media with a hashtag so that people could see them promoting the good work of Amazing Parish. And they got gifts out of it. And so if you're not meeting in person and you had a food budget and you're not really using that, I know that the small faith group that my parents have been part of for 10 years, everybody lives within 2 square miles of each other. And it's a beautiful thing in Lawrence Park, Wesleyville, PA, Harbor Creek. So a group like that, the leader of the group might say, I'm going to surprise everyone and leave them a care package of Chex Mix on their doorstep with a little note saying, can't wait to see you at 7 p.m. And in a socially distant, safe way that they feel good about, you could leave snacks for everybody and say, save this for when we log in and we're going to have a Chex Mix toast together. You know, those kind of creative ideas go a huge way and help people feeling loved and cared for and supported. And then the last thing is to be as personalized and leave as much space for customization as you can. So for us, that was the poll tonight. We really wanted to be able to let you articulate, these are my goals. These are the things that I'm trying to get out of this. It gave us some information about who's in the audience. And it also gave you the ability to commit and say, you know, this is why I'm here and I feel seen and known because you gave me an option to express that. So lots more about experiences, but again, I've heard folks say, well, we can just do our meeting over Zoom, and you can, but if you want to do ministry over Zoom, you have to think about that cura personalis, as Jillian talked about today. How do you care for the whole person? And part of that is by being mindful of all of the beautiful sensory ways that God can interact with us and using those as methods of hospitality. Kate, did I miss anything there?
No, that's awesome. I just wanted to take 30 seconds and address the 2 questions that came in.
That would be perfect. Go ahead.
Awesome. So the first one is, can you use the spotlight function in the breakout rooms for just the people in the breakout rooms? And the answer is yes. When you go into breakout rooms, it really kind of disengages you from the main meeting. So what you do in there, if you record a breakout room, it's not connected to the main meeting recording. If you spotlight in the breakout room, like it's not going to suddenly shoot the person back to the main meeting and spotlight them. So in that, it's like your own special private room. So you can definitely do that. And the second one is the spotlight video best to use on yourself or another presenter? And I guess my question would be, what are you trying to do? If you really want someone's attention focused on one person, that spotlight view is really amazing. And it doesn't change from speaker to speaker. So this is someone you would probably want attention focused on for an extended period of time, or you're gonna have to be quick at changing who you're spotlighting. An example of a time that we used this, I think well, was during the 201 sessions, when I was telling a story and we just wanted to focus on the personal side of the story. So Jessie spotlighted me, and then when I was done with the story, we took that spotlight off. If you're gonna bounce back and forth between people, kind of like Mary mentioned, that might be a good speaker view session, so that the speaker is always the largest person and you don't have to be the one bouncing back and forth. And if you want everyone to have equal voice, gallery view is really a good life choice. So Angie, is that a decent answer, or do I need to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I've never used it before.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize in the 201 class that that's what they did for your story. And so I didn't know, like, can you do a spotlight on yourself, and is that kind of awkward?
Nope, it's just a button like a screen share.
I don't think it would feel weird. If you're the primary person talking and you're doing instruction, I think that would feel good, actually.
Yep, I just didn't know if it would flow. Like if you, I guess I need to play around with it. Vicki, this is our plan for next week.
It's as easy as this. And when I'm done, I'm just gonna go to the top of my picture, and it has a little gray button that shows up that says cancel spotlight. And I'm done. Watch me say it's as easy as this, and it's still going on. Okay, there you go. So if that felt jolty to you, I'm still in front for you all. Oh no!
You have to self-select back to gallery.
Now Jessie is.
Oh.
Okay, so what we learned is that once you spotlight somebody, your default back is onto speaker view. So you'd have to prompt your folks to go up to the top corner, or if they're on an iPad or something, to tap somewhere on their screen. And it'll bring up a view option in the top. I always get my left and right mixed up. The top right-hand corner. And there should be a little like 9 square box, looks like a tic-tac-toe board. If you click that, you're back in gallery. Thanks for experimenting with us, guys and girls.
Sue, thank you for that question. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms first, and then we will answer that when you come back. That's a really great question. Before we launch that, I actually took the liberty of making a quick poll. You're going to have 60 seconds to take this poll. So you get to weigh in, and we're going to vote tonight, an old-fashioned vote. Do you want to have, we have 7 minutes left. Do you want to spend more time in your small group workshopping your scenario about how to apply this to adult formation? Or do you want to spend more time in a large group hearing what everybody has to say? 5 more seconds. Wow, wait till y'all see these results. So we have a resounding vote for more time in a large group. So I'm gonna put you in small breakout rooms just for 2 minutes, enough time for you to hear your scenario and wrap your brains around it. And then when we come back, we'll present all of them to everybody and we'll hear from a couple voices, alrighty? So your breakout rooms are going to start momentarily and you'll be sent on your way. Lauren, if you can hear me, there should be a little pop-up box that came up that will say, would you like to join this breakout room? Say yes. Welcome back, welcome back. Congrats on being the first room. Welcome back. You probably got awkwardly cut off in the middle of a sentence. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because we have a deadline. So I'm gonna dive right into this. So simulation number 1, this is Kate's group. Your parish has a faith sharing group of middle-aged adults that live in the same small neighborhood and have been meeting faithfully twice a month for years. The group has not felt comfortable meeting in person, but they're feeling disconnected and really miss each other. They're willing to try meeting together via Zoom, but they're nervous about understanding the technology and about it not feeling the same. What choices can you make to help meet the goals of the group? What did you come up with, group 1?
Well, we didn't share, but we've had small groups at Beloved Disciple, and people haven't been able to get on. And so we've scheduled one-on-one Zooms with them, talking to them on the phone to make sure that they can get on. And then one gentleman, I just couldn't walk him through it. I put my mask on and he was comfortable with his mask on. So I went to his home and got him on.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm also mindful that at this point to hear from everyone means that we're going to go over 8 o'clock. So because there was interest in the group from hearing from the large group, I'm going to commit us to at least 8:05. But if you need to step out, just wave and we'll send you love on your way out. But you're welcome to stay with us till 8:05. Anyone else from simulation number 1?
We had a good question come up, but I'm going to hold it.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts about how you can help? These folks already know each other. They've been meeting for years. They live adjacent to each other. What other things could they do to make this time together feel special? This could be the Chex Mix group. This might be the group where it makes sense to have the leader surprise everyone and make a pan of brownies and put a brownie in a Ziploc bag on everyone's doorstep or something like that. When you're in close proximity and you're already close to each other and you probably are used to being at each other's homes, that might make sense, but that wouldn't make sense other contexts. Very good, let's move on. So simulation number 2, Deacon Steve's group. Your parish is launching a new video and small group discussion series. Each week, parishioners will watch the next video installment on their own, then come together for an hour-long discussion on Zoom with a provided facilitator. The parishioners will be randomly assigned to discussion groups and may not know everyone there. How can you maximize this opportunity for discussion, learning, and growing new relationships between parishioners?
I invite anybody on the group to say something, but we really talked about the hospitality factors here, like really making sure, if people don't know each other, name tags, introductions. And I think Victoria even said, like Sister Nancy said first, like even going into a question of how long have you been in the parish? What do you like about the parish? Those kinds of things to make them feel a little bit more comfortable. And then Victoria said, even to spend a lot more time on that section in the first meeting, even if you don't get to all the content, because building those relationships at the beginning is going to be very important.
Great. Other voices from group 2? This is a real life scenario. I'm doing this for my parish starting next month with The Chosen, where we're going to all be watching The Chosen, then having discussion groups. I'm thinking about, there's a setting in Zoom where you can pre-assign breakout rooms. So getting together with the other co-facilitators and saying, which groups have something in common? Their kids are all, the people who are coming, their kids are all the same age, or they all happen to go to the same grade school, or these parents work together at the Italian spaghetti dinner. So if we can anticipate who already knows each other and get at least one comfort zone person in each of the breakout rooms and pre-assign those, then that makes it a little bit more comfortable for those folks to want to share. Very good. Okay, as you know, there's no shortage of ideas on these, so I appreciate your patience. Number 3, your pastor wants to lead a 4-week Zoom Bible study on the Gospel of John and open it to the whole parish. And he's asked you for your behind-the-scenes help. His goals are to offer meaningful adult catechesis and make sure parishioners stay connected to the parish. What suggestions do you make to him about how to help this be successful?
We heard from Amy, so she wants to share. We'll put her on the spot for a minute.
Amy, I thought of you when I wrote that scenario, actually.
Oh, great. Okay, so we just started last night. But we're not using Zoom. We decided to use Facebook Live, and we're doing exactly the way you taught it to us, and it's working. We've got a live audience in front of us, but we're also putting it, we've got a camera set up in the back, and we're just Facebooking it live, and I'm moderating the session. So he asks any questions and I've got comments come in, either I can answer them or I will just hail Father down and, you know, say, hey, we've got a question from Angela or someone. And it works. I mean, or it worked. I should say we've only done it once, but it worked very well. So I'm not exactly sure how well that would work, because a Zoom, don't you have to send out an invitation, or how do you do that to open up to the whole parish? That's why we did Facebook.
I think that Facebook is the perfect venue for that. Zoom, it is more secure if you send people the link in advance rather than just posting a public Zoom link, because then you don't know who's going to find it and some of that stuff. So, so I think that you have the perfect facilitation. That's wonderful. Thanks, Amy. Any other thoughts on scenario 3? This could be a spotlight view versus gallery view thing. When we helped the Office of Communications and Bishop Persico do the town hall at the start of reopening parishes, Bishop was very clear, because we said Bishop will spotlight view you, you know, and we'll turn off all the other people's videos so that we just see you. And he was like, that's not what I want. My goals for this are to help the people in the diocese feel connected to each other. I want their videos on the whole time. We'll start in gallery view so everybody can see everybody, and switch me to spotlight view only when I'm speaking, because the most important thing is people feel connected to each other. So talk to your pastor about those options, because he wants people to feel connected to the parish. The gallery view feature might be important, breakout sessions might be important, but you could really highlight that intentionality of his teaching through the spotlight view. Are you hanging with me on these couple of examples of those intentional choices a couple of times? You know, we get a little bit caught up during COVID. We know why it's important to keep gathering. We know why adult formation is important. That goes without saying. We kind of know what we can do. Well, we can do Facebook, or we can pray together, or we can study together, or we can do faith sharing, we can do study the Sunday Gospels. But it's the how piece. How you do, how is the bridge between the why and the what. And so this session tonight about how hopefully helps equip you all to empower the people at your parishes to make that a really meaningful exchange, because people know why they're there. They'll fumble their way through what, and you'll figure it out. But if you can help them with the how, that's how we can make a really high impact. So just a couple of quick announcements before Deacon Steve closes us in prayer. This session, the video will be available on our website. The handout will get emailed to you as well. Feel free to share those things with, if you have, again, small group leaders at your parish or other team, our RCIA instructors, please share this with whomever would find it helpful. Jillian and I are going to have that separate session on experiences and how to evangelize with young adults. So if you want to be part of that, please let me know and we'll put you on an email list. And the last piece is that I'm aware that there was another big diocesan event tonight about Civilize It from the Office of Social Justice and Life. We inadvertently scheduled at the same time. We felt so badly about it. So I promised Patrice Swick in her office that I would make sure that when I send you all of my resources, I'll also send you the link to her presentation from tonight. We appreciate you being here with us. But her program is really valuable too. I know Bishop was part of that as well. So we'll make sure that you all have that link. If there's no other announcements, gosh, it's 8:06.
Actually, Kate, do you have some questions?
Oh, Kate, thank you.
I did have one. And so this one was, how do you post discussion questions in breakout rooms on a screen share? And that one is actually just as simple as screen sharing on a main page. So you're going to go to that options bar at the bottom of your page. There's going to be a share screen button. You'll click that. When it comes up, there will be a bunch of different tiles that'll show you the windows that you have open on your computer. So maybe if you have a Word document open, a PowerPoint open, and your internet browser open, you'll see those three things show up in tiles. Click the one that you want and hit share your screen, and everybody will see that. When you're done, there's a little red button at the top of your page that'll say stop sharing. When that happens, you will only be sharing in your breakout room. You won't be sharing in the main room. So if you're sharing discussion questions in a breakout and your question is different from my question, that's fine. You're not going to mess either of us up.
Is there a centralized way for one person to share the same shared screen with all of the breakout rooms? Or do you have to individually share screens in each room? I think it's the latter.
I think it is the latter too. I haven't found that nifty function if it's there.
Yeah, good question.
That's a good question. Thank you. And I think, Amy, thanks for answering the question in the chat box. Way to go. Is Amy using public Facebook question sessions for anyone who's wanting to watch? Yep, and their page is the Catholic Community of Meadville. On there, if you just search it in the little bar at the top of your Facebook login, they'll come up and you can friend their page. And I'm sure, Amy, you announce before you do your lives.
Yeah, although I did forget about it last night and I put the post up like 10 minutes beforehand that said, hey, we're going to be doing this in 10 minutes. But the class is on Wednesday nights at 6:30, and we're going to be doing that every Wednesday during September, and then in October till Christmas we'll be moving into another class called The Story of the Bible. That'll be at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, and I'll be leading that one. Don't know if I have a moderator yet for that one. Have to train someone to do it.
Yeah, you will. So great questions. And so happy that you're learning from each other and picking up things from each other. That just makes us so happy, because there's so much goodness the whole way across the diocese. So thank you for that. All right, I do think that's all the questions.
Good, good. Deacon Steve, the floor is yours. Pray us out.
All right, thanks. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Loving God, we thank you for this time, this building community. Even though we're not physically in each other's presence, we certainly are in spirit. We are connected as a diocese. So thank you for all the gifts of the people here, what they bring to the diocese and who they are for their parishioners and their parishes. We ask blessings on each one as they venture into the new school year, as they venture into new Bible studies and RCIA and all the things they're called to do in their parish. Just blessings on their work this year. Blessings on our diocese as we continue to live through the pandemic and find ways that we can be physically connected to each other in safe ways, but also connecting to each other in new virtual ways. So just blessings upon each one of us. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. And go in peace.